Senate will now have before for final consideration House Bill number 290. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 290 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to immunizations, to revise provisions regarding immunization for licensed daycare facilities, to revise provisions regarding immunization for Idaho schools, and to...
President.
Senator Bierke.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 290 be dispensed with and the Journal Shoal has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, Senator Bierke, you have the floor to begin the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. This bill is being introduced to make sure Idaho's immunization policies are set by elected lawmakers, not state agencies. Right now, the Department of Health and Welfare has the power to change vaccine rules, enforce them, and even add new requirements without going through the legislature. This bill moves those rules into state law so that any future changes must be debated and decided by elected representatives, not unelected officials. The bill doesn't add new vaccine requirements or take away existing exemptions. It simply ensures that Idaho's immunization policies are clear, consistent, and made with full legislative oversight, just like other health and safety regulations. So this is, in the most basic sense, this is rules going into statute. If you're looking at the actual bill, you see underlines and crossouts. That is how it would be reflected while it's in rules. There's been some confusion about this is proposing some immunization rules or requirements. Understand that this is just what is existing in rules being moved over to statute, so we as a body in the future can make decisions on immunizations. And with that, debate is open.
Is there further debate? Senator Zito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got some concerns about this specific bill. I understand moving rule into code so that the legislature has more purview. But that being said, we review the rules and we can reject the rules, and only one body needs to reject the rules, and then they're not the rules anymore. But specific to this piece of legislation, Mr. President, I'm concerned with, the first concern I have with this is on line 28 on page 1. It says documentation shall be retained by the licensed daycare facility for the child as long as the child attends the daycare facility plus 1 year later. So I'm concerned, number one, about a third party having personal medical information about the children. I'm concerned about security breaches and the availability of that to whomever. I mean, what is there to make sure that this information isn't shared where it shouldn't be or ends up where it should not be? I'm concerned about putting medical treatment into code. I don't think I'm uncomfortable with that, because for me, putting this vaccine requirement in code is interfering in medical practice. I don't think we would put how many times a child is recommended to go to the dentist in code. And I see this as a far stretch. It interferes with the standard of care, which we know can change. I'm concerned with the definition of a disease outbreak. Is the disease outbreak, is that specific to each daycare center? Would that be if one child has a disease? Is that an outbreak? Is it specific to a county or a city or a state? I think we need more clarification on that. Those are just a couple of the concerns that I have. I'm also a little bit concerned about a report that has to be made when it's talking about schools to school authorities here. And it's talking about children who have submitted medical exemptions or religious exemptions, that information has to be reported to the state. How specific does that have to be? Again, is that the name of each child, the name of their family, where they live, how to contact them? It's pretty vague in there about what information. And then I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with all of this reporting, and how do we know that that is going to be secure? So for those reasons, Mr. President, I'm not going to vote for this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Senator. Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Zeiderfeld,
to debate the bill.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have many concerns as the senator in District 8. And one of the concerns, and I went and I've tried to do some research on my own, we don't show anywhere where we actually put immunization records into statute. This would be the first that we were actually putting the whole list of immunizations in code. And again, a lot of times, we really have the best intentions that have unintended consequences, and I could see this being one down the road. And the other problem I see is on page 2, starting on line 19, it says, a child not meeting the conditions of this section shall be excluded by the licensed daycare facility operator until the child is compliant. And yes, it's talking about if it's another outbreak. God forbid that would happen again, but it could. But now we are just putting in code that they will be excluded from the daycare if they don't meet that criteria. And we know what a problem that was the last go around. And so I just don't feel comfortable voting for this and putting all of this into code. And I too will be voting no.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Lenny,
I would like to debate the bill.
you have the floor, Senator.
Thank you. So, House Bill 290 is not a vaccine bill, and I think some of the concerns shared we're missing the forest for the trees, because some of what we just heard mentioned as concerns, those are existing rules right now. Actually, those rules have been in place for the past 20 years, since 2005. So we're not adding anything new that's not already existing. This is not a vaccine bill. All we're doing is taking existing rules that exist right now as we're all sitting here. We're just taking them from rule and putting them into code. Now, originally, Mr. President, there's been a few of these rules to statute bills, and I said, well, why don't we just, if we want to change or mess with the rules, why don't we just get rid of some final rules? It's not easy to get at a final rule. When we have committees, we have rules brought to us, proposed rules, temporary rules, but a final rule, meaning a rule that's not brought to us in committee, a final rule that exists, those don't get rejected. I've never seen one rejected since I've been here. If you want to get rid of a final rule, you're running into essentially a brick wall, because the Idaho Constitution and statute require us to show that if you want to get rid of or reject or delete a final rule, you essentially have to show that it deviates from legislative intent. So you basically have to go to a chairman, get them, say, hey, there's this rule, pick it out of the ether, I don't like this rule. You have to get a hearing on it, then you have to demonstrate why that rule deviates from legislative intent. So rejections of, we don't see people rejecting final rules. I've never seen it happen. I don't know when the last time that's ever happened, and it doesn't happen for a reason. So again, this is not a vaccine bill. We're not adding anything new. We're adding nothing new. We're just moving addresses. And H290, it does two things. It takes hard to reach final rules. So in this bill, we're talking about vaccine schedules. We're taking those hard to reach or hard to get at final rules, and we're just putting them within striking distance. So if you don't like something, if you want to change something, if you want to edit something, it's a lot easier to do that. And then we're also, the second thing it does, Mr. President, is that it ensures that unelected bureaucrats at the Department of Health and Welfare can't mess with the vaccine schedule willy-nilly or add things while we're out of session. Again, this bill creates no new policy, no new code, no new requirement. We're just simply moving addresses, Mr. President. It's a really good bill. You guys should all vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Senator Zito, For what purpose do you rise?
To debate the bill, if I can,
A second time?
a second time.
Does anyone wish to debate it for the first time? Senator Zito, you're recognized to debate for a second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out that I understand fully that we're moving this information from rule to code. And I understand the difference between a rule and a code. And I understand that we review the rules as a legislative body to ensure that legislative intent is followed. And I'm pretty sure that I've been on committees that have rejected rules before. Thank you, Mr. President. I believe in a former life, we saw that happen on the same floor at the same time. So this is not just moving something from one address to another. This is enshrining a vaccine code in Idaho law. It's not a rule put out by a bureaucratic agency anymore. It's making it a law. And we know the process for changing law, and we know how cumbersome it can be by design. It's not an accident that we have to go through what we go through to make something become a law. And I think this is a good example of where we need to be very cautious about what we put into Idaho code. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate? Senator Taves,
Thank you, Mr. President. To debate the bill.
you have the floor, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, I actually appreciate the concept of moving things from rule into code. I think that it takes things that are hidden in some way to light. But I'm dealing with a situation where we did this exact thing on another bill during this session, where we have to put a trailer bill through to fix that change because it was brought to light. So I would prefer to see a process where instead of a two-step process where we bring them up and then we fix them, where we actually bring them out of rule and see if there's any changes we want to make right then. So I won't be able to support this bill, even though I do appreciate what we're trying to do by bringing rules into statute where we can fix them.
Is there further debate? Hearing none. Senator Bierke, you're recognized to stand and close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do take to heart the concerns of the senators from 8, 24, and 4, and I appreciate the thorough explanation. I was going to try to be brief with this bill. I don't know if you're on health and welfare like I've been. We have sometimes 800 different pages of rules that we have to go through. And, if you're also on JFAC or some other committees and you're trying to get legislation passed, sorting through 800 pages of rules is a daunting task and is wrought with the possibilities of things like this going unnoticed. And then we go in the interim in these agencies that look at our statutes to determine what their policies and rules are going to be and take some liberties at times, so that becomes the effect of law. So for the Department of Health and Welfare, I would much prefer things that are, somewhat contentious at times when we're looking at these types of issues, immunizations and things like that we have this codified in a place that even if it takes a trailer bill to adjust, it's visible, it's upfront and personal. This is where I want it, and that's why I'm asking you to vote yes, and debate is closed.
Debate is closed. The question before the Senate is, shall House Bill 290 pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Adams, Anthen, Berg, Berndt, Bierke, Blaylock, Burtonshaw, Carlson, Cook, Den Hartog, Foreman, Galloway, Grow, Guthrie, Harris, Hart. Kaiser. Cole.
60 seconds, Mr. President.
60 seconds, Senator Cole.
I appreciate the sponsor bringing forward this bill. I think I understand the intention of bringing this, but the reality is bad rules make even worse law, so I'll be voting no.
Senator Cole votes no.
Lakey. Lenny. Lent. Okonowitz. Ricks. Ruckte. Summerall. Shippey. Taylor. Taves. Van Orden. Wintrow. Woodward. Cito. Seiderveld. Anthon. Lenny.
Mr. President,
Senator,
how did I vote?
Senator Conowitz? Aye. Senator,
Would you change
voted-
that to no, please? I was mixed up with the telephone.
Senator Conowitz votes no.
Ricks. Ruckte. Van Orden. There is also a paired vote. Senator Ward Engelking votes aye. Senator Nichols votes nay.
The vote count shows 23 in favor with 11 against and 1 absent. A majority having voted in the affirmative, House Bill number 290 is passed the Senate. Hearing no correction to the title is approved and the bill will be returned to the House of Representatives.